Debate. The member from Essex.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I want to congratulate our leader, Andrea Horwath, on a wonderful, inspiring speech, which actually should make up the next speech from the throne for an NDP government when we finally turn this province around. Speaker, I am honoured to follow our leader to speak in response to the Wynne government's speech from the throne. Speaker, we have had some time over the summer to consult and commiserate with our communities, to listen to them, to have those impromptu meetings in the Tim Hortons and the restaurants all around our ridings, and to connect with the people that sent us here. And it has never been clearer that our communities are suffering and that they require and demand a government that responds to their needs, that understands that times have never been tougher, that they are losing hope not only for themselves in their current situations, but for that of their family members and their friends, their colleagues. The opportunities that this government promises and that we've heard from successive speeches from the throne and from budgets that have been laid out from successive governments have not presented themselves in a way that benefits our communities and the people that live there. That's why we are sent here today. We continue to persevere to address those issues and to highlight where the Wynne government has continued to fail. Glaringly, we know that hydro rates in this province have just recently cost the Wynne government a seat in this House. The Scarborough-Rouge River by-election was a message sent to the government that, frankly, if the direction isn't changed, they'll be soon on their way out of this building. And it couldn't happen soon enough, Speaker. We know that across this province, from one quadrant to another, the north, the northwest, the east, in the east and the south, people are having to choose between paying their hydro or paying for food. This is Ontario. This is the most prosperous province in Confederation. And yet we're at a point now where one of the most basic amenities is no longer affordable. Speaker, I'll bring you back to 1905. Some on the Liberal benches may remember that, the government of the day. It was the government of James Whitney, was a Conservative. And the Minister of Energy and Hydro at that time was a gentleman called Adam Beck. We should all know the legacy of Adam Beck. We should all know the history of Adam Beck. And I often, when I think about hydro rates and I think about the nature of hydroelectricity generation distribution in this province, I go back to Sir Adam Beck because he is the father of public hydro in Ontario. And Sir Adam Beck knew at that time that electrification and distribution of hydro and access to electricity was not only vital for the growth of this province and the prosperity of the province, but he knew that it had to be affordable. And in that light, Speaker, he's left us with not only a legacy of public power and the growth that has ensued because we had a public power system, but he's left us with some great quotes that I'll give to you right now for the benefit of the House. Speaker, he's quoted saying, "We must deliver power to such an extent that the poorest working man will have light in his home." End quote. That's Sir Adam Beck, a Conservative, talking about the working man at that time in 1905. We would be hard-pressed to hear those words, I believe, from the right wing at this time. Speaker, another quote from Adam Beck as he flipped the switch on Ontario Hydro. As he flipped the switch to light up this province, he said, quote, "for the people." That was top of mind for Adam Beck, for the people. And shouldn't it be that in perpetuity? Shouldn't we continue to honor that legacy, to understand the benefit that we have in a public power regime, it was at cost, and it should have been at cost. But the decisions that are being made by the Wynne government, by Kathleen Wynne and successive hydro ministers who have failed us, the decisions that have been made to privatize Hydro One now leave us with a legacy not for the people, but for the profit. Because the profit of that system will now go to multinationals who will absolutely rain down a level of unattainable, insufficient, and expensive power that this province has never seen before. And we have examples of it, Speaker. We have examples of it dating back to 1999, where in a brief moment of time, the Conservative government of the day, Mike Harris, allowed himself to be a full Conservative, showed his true colors, where they went full privatization. They deregulated the industry. And we saw power costs at that time increase almost overnight. Immediately, we saw power jump 30% in a time where the province was struggling economically, in a time where interest rates were certainly higher than they are today. We saw power costs explode in this province. What did they do? They hightailed it back to some measure of public ownership. They cut their losses, but we are left with that legacy, and we see it every day on our hydro bills as the stranded asset, stranded liability that we see. That's about a $19 billion price tag that we have yet to fully eradicate. Speaker, our leader, Andrea, I referenced that should make up the context of a speech from the throne. If people are listening today, they will find hope in that message, that there is a political party in Ontario that has their needs as a priority, that has listened. And how do you know that? Well, let's look back 6 years when then Premier Dalton McGuinty and Finance Minister Dwight Duncan, who was from our neck of the woods down in Windsor, decided it was a great deal to partner with the Harper government at the time to impose the harmonized sales tax on Ontarians. Now, New Democrats joined with the people of this province to fight tooth and nail, to fight the imposition of the HST. It was a fight that ultimately was not won. But at that time, we said, if you're going to bring it in, at the very least exclude hydro and natural gas.
Makes sense.
Exclude those from the harmonized sales tax, from the HST. These are inevitable requirements to live in this province. You have to heat your home, and you have to keep the lights on. So it was a common sense proposal. It was something that we thought, at the very least, as we knew that costs were going to rise for everyday items in this province, at the very least, this government could understand that they could do that for the province. Now, 6 years later, we see they finally come to their senses and understood that people need some remedy. They need some relief. And you're offering them 8% after we've seen, under the Kathleen Wynne Liberal government, a 50% increase over the last 4 years in hydro rates. A meager, measly 8%. I'm having a fun time reading the comments, the editorial comments as of the last couple of days on this plan, because it is indicative of the fact that this government has done so very little for the people of the province that I don't think there's anything you can do from here on in that will reverse your fortunes. You are in a tailspin. Your government has made the wrong decisions time and time again, whether it's the privatization of hydro, whether it's the cancellation of gas plants, whether it's e-health, whether it's public-private partnerships that have cost this province $9 billion. You fail the province every time, and it's time to reverse the course. And New Democrats will be doing that. the speech, the would-be speech from the throne, can we call it that?
Game of Thrones.
The would-be speech from the throne that we should anticipate after the next election. We can't wait. The speech from the throne that our leader, Andrea Horwath, will deliver will present a remedy. Presumptuous. It is inevitable. You're leading us down that path, and people can't wait to get rid of your government. They cannot wait, believe me. And we're going to help them. We're going to help them get there, because we know that people in this province prioritize their health care above anything else. That's one thing that I think we can all agree on. We all talk to the same people, and when it comes down to it, the health of their family, their friends, their community is paramount. But yet, again, under the Kathleen Wynne government, we have seen a degradation of our healthcare system to the extent that we've never seen before. People are being warehoused in our hospital system, as we've heard. We have hallway healthcare, where you're lucky to get a room. You're lucky to see a physician for a brief time. You are warehoused in overcrowded hospitals. That's your legacy. We have an infrastructure deficit where our hospitals are falling apart, and the government doesn't even want to recognize its own failure. You can't bring yourself to actually see those numbers, let alone to present a clear picture of the infrastructure deficit that exists in our hospitals. I'll give you an example. Just in Windsor, the other day, we know that they are struggling with an antiquated, outdated sterilization system from a hospital that certainly predates my birth, but many others in the city. I think it's over 100 years old, Hotel Dieu Grace Hospital. But the system that is there is breaking down. That is directly as a result to the cuts that this government has imposed on our province and on our system. We see frontline care workers being fired, nurses being fired in every community across this province, directly affecting the health and the well-being of our friends and family. That's your legacy. That's the legacy of Kathleen Wynne. That's what we have come to expect, but we can expect so much more. We can expect the next speech from the throne, from an NDP government, to address those priorities of the people that we hear so clearly, not address the priorities of the profiteers that have been knocking on the door and having that door swung wide open by the Kathleen Wynne government for years and years. Speaker, our leader, Andrea Horwath, spoke about the quality and the nature of employment and jobs in this province. Anyone who is entering the job market or re-entering the job market these days knows that it has never been more challenging. Access to good quality employment, a good job, let alone a career, is almost unattainable. We have an explosion of part-time precarious work. We have an explosion of temporary agencies that are now the mainstay of employment recruitment. You know, I can remember a day when the classifieds were full. The back pages of the classifieds were full of help wanted advertisements. And these were good jobs. And I mean, at 18 years old, you could find a decent job. You could find something that allowed you to support your university education or your post-secondary education. You could afford a job that could pay the rent and pay the utilities and maybe give you a little bit of leisure spending. No longer, Speaker. People in this province are having an absolute challenge to find gainful employment. And why is that? Well, under the Kathleen Wynne government, we've seen a lackadaisical approach to employment standards. We've seen neglect on the part of supporting improvements through organized labor. We have seen a government that, frankly, is a neoliberal government that has a laissez-faire approach around economic development. Let the market create itself. Let the market spur its own economic development. Well, let me tell you, you have a role to play. you have a role to play in supporting job creators who are there, who are innovating, who are looking to hire. You have the ability as a government to enable and enact supportive measures like my colleague from London in work-integrated learning through our post-secondary institutions. You have great ideas. You have the ability to ban temporary agencies from paying workers less than they make, less than their colleagues make, working right beside them. You have the ability to do that, but you haven't. You have abdicated your responsibility. Why? Because we believe that you just don't care, or you're tone deaf to the needs of workers in this province. That's why New Democrats, again, time and time again, but particularly now, faced with this crisis, have presented you as a government with some really tangible ideas, some real tangible, attainable ideas. One, ban the ability for temp agencies to pay their workers less than the workers they work alongside with. You can do that today. You can do that today. And it's something that workers are wanting for. It is essentially you're sanctioning theft, wage theft, from workers in this province who have no other recourse but to go through a temp agency to get a job. Speaker, 10% of workers in this province work for minimum wage. $11.75 an hour, I believe.
Mostly women.
Mostly women, vulnerable, new immigrants who need to provide for their families. Speaker, this government can follow the lead of the Premier of Alberta, Rachel Notley, and her government, who just now recently raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. They are showing true leadership in this country. They understand the priorities of the people. Speaker, I don't know if you know, we've had many discussions, but for the benefit of the House, prior to being elected, I was a member of the Labourers Union International of North America, LIUNA, Local 625. I worked on infrastructure projects, built bridges and roads, and it was a good job. And I started when I was 19 years old and worked my way through on and off seasonally when I was going to university, and then I got married. So there was always a good job there for me through the union. And I made a good wage, Speaker. I probably made $25 an hour as a apprentice, and getting up towards $32 an hour as a journeyman laborer. It enabled me to provide for my family. It enabled me to pay off university debt. It enabled me to have benefits like dental and health care and prescription drugs. It enabled me to be protected at work so that if I was hurt or injured, they couldn't fire me. Speaker, I was able to be a part of that union because the construction sector in Ontario is a card-based certification process. You get to join a union if yourself and 51% of your colleagues decide it's time to organize your workplace. You sign a card, you say we're ready, you submit that to the Labour Board, and you become unionized. And you make that decision. It is a worker-based decision. But we are the only ones in this province, in the construction sector, that get that privilege. Everyone else has to have, a vote that is sometimes biased and influenced by overzealous and heavy-handed employers. The fairest way, the best way for workers to organize is card certification. It provides for a measure of security. It brings people in to the middle class. It enables people like me to be able to have a job, to be able to provide for my family, to buy my first vehicle. There are thousands of workers out there today, tens of thousands, that would love that opportunity but are blocked from that opportunity because this government hasn't changed the rules. Why is it that one sector, one industry in this province has the ability and others don't? Do other sectors not work as hard as construction workers? I would argue no. I would argue that service workers work just as hard, if not harder, every day. They deserve that same right. It's time for this government to bring in card certification in this province. Speaker, I did a little bit of research knowing that I was going to have the ability and the privilege to speak today, and it may have been quoted here. I'm sure one of my brilliant NDP colleagues have quoted this and referenced this in relation to hydro rates. But you know what? I'm going to give a shout out to Tom Parkin. Tom is a researcher. He's got a long, storied career in the progressive movement and labour rights. Tom, thanks for putting this out there on Twitter today. He quickly let us know that the rates in Manitoba per 375 watt kilowatt hour. In Manitoba today, you'd pay $36.34. In Quebec, you'd pay $33.60 for 375 kilowatts. In Ottawa today, you'd pay $70.96, more than double the rate of the two adjacent provinces to us, the two provinces that have fully public hydro systems for the benefit of their people, for the benefit of their industries, to be economically sustainable and to use their systems as a strategic asset. And what do? We sell it off at a fire sale because they're out of ideas and they can't make the right decision.
They've blown so much thing.
It is time, Speaker, that we change this government, if not for hydro, for a legacy of missteps that have been to the detriment of the people of this province. Speaker, we are speaking today in reference to the throne speech, and I want to give another shout out to someone who works tirelessly on behalf of people in the province with disabilities, David Lepofsky. David has been bombarding every MPP, I hope, with a message that we should look at every policy initiative that this government comes out of this government through the lens of disability and accessibility. We heard absolutely nothing about accessibility and disability rights through the throne speech yesterday. They have neglected, after years of bringing in the AODA, they have neglected the thousands of people in this province that suffer, that struggle every day to access services. They have done nothing. They won't even initiate any type of oversight on their own AODA. We need a government that addresses, that gives the opportunity to people in this province who have a disability to access opportunities through employment, to access basic health care services, to access educational services. We are lagging behind in this province. It's all well to say you have a plan, but to not put any resources into it and to not have any oversight or governance in it is a shame, and it is right for those folks to be speaking out. And you can be rest assured that the next throne speech by the new NDP government will address the issues of the disabled in this province, because that's what they deserve and that's what's fair. Speaker, I, along with many of my colleagues, I want to give thanks to my colleague from Windsor West, Lisa Gretzky, who initiated something quite unique, not unique, what's the word? Brave. She was brave in that she asked residents of our riding and our adjacent riding to send in their hydro bills to the community office. Yeah, you're shaking your head over there because you would hate to get the hydro bills in your community offices. She said, send me your bills. We need to see these. And in a couple of days, she received hundreds of hydro bills from people that are struggling, that can't make ends meet, that don't know where to turn. My solution is to fire the Liberal government, to get Kathleen Wynne out of here. That's the number one solution. But that's not coming from me. Don't take it from me, right? Read the editorials in the Windsor Star, because after your 8% GST rebate, they're having none of it. None of it. That's where you might want to go vacation after, Minister, is none of it. Go see what the hydro rates are and none of it. But, Speaker, I received just yesterday another Facebook text and a copy of Hydro Bill from a gentleman that owns a restaurant in LaSalle. I won't mention his name, but this is it. He's done. He cannot continue. He had a $6,000, this is a small mom and pop greasy spoon restaurant, Speaker, the ones that we like to go to. This isn't Big Mac's, this isn't McDonald's, this isn't the big chain restaurants. This is just a small family-run restaurant. He can't do it. He's got a deep fryer, he's got some lights. This isn't the Ritz-Carlton. $6,000 a month. This is what you've created. These are the economic conditions for small business growth in this province. You are stymieing any type of economic growth or opportunity. And if you don't realize that now, you might realize it after the next election when you're sitting at home looking at your own hydro bill, wondering how you're going to pay for it. Right. Speaker, they're all tied together. And these are ideas and concepts. And it is interesting to hear the Progressive Conservative Party champion or try to champion the maintaining of public power in this province. They're against hydro privatization. I call shenanigans on that. I highly doubt that in their heart of right-wing hearts, they truly believe that we should have a public utility in this province. They don't want anything public. They don't want health care. They don't want universal health care. They don't want universal education. They'd love charter schools, I guarantee it. And they want a privatization of the utilities. There's no question about it. If they say any different, then they should check their membership card and see what party they truly belong to, because that's not the ideology of the Progressive Conservative Party. Speaker, but you know, if they are to learn from history, I would suggest they go back to Sir Adam Beck. He sounds like a good New Democrat, actually. You know? He sounds like somebody I could have supported. Had a beer with for sure. I'll leave you with one last quote, Speaker. Sir Adam Beck knew that the profiteers, the vulture capitalists, were going to be coming for this massive entity that distributed power at cost, non-profit. He knew it. He saw it. He had the foresight to understand that this thing could make a huge amount of money, and the banks and the profiteers were just circling like vultures. They were ready. But Adam Beck knew that it was for the benefit of the people that we maintained this as a public asset. He knew it, and he left us with a quote, Speaker, that I hope is ingrained and should be ingrained in every member of the Kathleen Wynne Liberal government. I'm going to leave you with it. Maybe the member from St. Catharines already knows it. He has encyclopedic knowledge of many of the great performers in this House. Speaker, I quote Adam Beck, "I wish I could live long enough to build a band of iron around hydro to keep it safe from the politicians. If I might add, keep it safe from the profiteers that have made their way and infiltrated their way into the Liberal government." Speaker, I am honoured to have the privilege to speak today, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you.